broadcast for up to 8 hours. That's impressive. I'll never do that. All right, so this week we're group 4, and we are discussing the Mary Griffin at Derby Foods case study. So let's see. It's still coming up because my internet is so weird right now. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's start first with what was your take on the case? So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
So, okay, so are you on that one page that says agenda?
Yes. Now.
Okay. It says instructions and then agenda.
At the very bottom, the agenda, right? So
Okay,
that's for
yeah.
next week, I think.
Okay. It says agenda, Mary Griffin at Derby Foods.
Okay, just a second.
I can put the link in too for you.
Okay, yeah, do that because it's being silly.
Ready?
Is it under view content for lesson 3?
It is. Here, I'll show you. I put the link in. I don't know if you can see it or if it works.
Oh, I got it.
So it gives us like questions we should discuss, and it kind of gives us a hint of like what area we should kind of be talking about, I guess.
Oh, because we're lesson 3, and I was looking at group 4. So
Okay.
I was okay. Oh yeah, I have this.
Cool. So we'll just talk about the case facts, I guess.
Absolutely.
The main issue I felt is that she needed to decide how to deal with Simon, whether it was. I felt like a part of it was whether she should deal with it or if she should just let him do his thing because he's been doing so well and kind of like stay out of his way. So I feel like that was the main issue I saw.
I can appreciate, yeah. So when I first read the issue, I am in a career right now, and I just left the human resource department. So the first time I read this case study, my first reaction was John, is that his name? John?
York.
Yeah, York. John Shelburne.
Yeah.
The director of production. Because that kind of conversation should never take place outside of a closed office.
Yeah.
And I feel like in last week's Harvard Business case study, they were very verbose in making sure they articulated where things happened. And so I felt like when they described it that he was walking up to her, like briskly walking towards her, it was in an aggressive way. So she cringed.
Yeah.
And so I have a big thing with that just because I had to go through all these classes for HIPAA, for human resources. So that was actually the first thing I saw. But your point of Mary really needs to figure out how to talk to him is, I think, the root cause of it.
Yeah. So yeah, we covered that. Why is it important? So it brings up culture. I feel like the culture is, if that's not consistent with the culture in the company, then it's obviously going to cause issues because people have a general way of thinking. If they're not used to people just being really aggressive and kind of forward, I mean, it might be weird for the company.
So in a production company, they do run into that type of thing a lot because people are very good at their area. The reason why learning how to discuss the behavior with him correctly, affects the behavior of the company, because would you want to be his employee that gets yelled at in the middle of an office?
Funny that he did that.
Yeah.
I would not want to be that person, because that is
Yeah.
absolutely embarrassing.
It's demoralizing.
It's absolutely demoralizing. So what's the next one? What are the specific behaviors that raise concern? Public reprimands that we just talked about.
So familiar.
Internal relationships, so important. If you can't work with the other parts of your company, the company doesn't flow.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much growth, if you want to bring in last week's case study for a minute, it doesn't matter how much Cirque du Soleil grows. They're not taking care of their people.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
if that happens. One of the other issues that I saw in the case was that when you are bringing complaints, whether it's in a class or a work setting, you have to come up with a solution. You can't just complain, and even though the director of production
They're like on and off. I think they just.
is the director of production, the problem becomes he shouldn't bring in the personal jab at this guy. I know he's a hot shot, but he just doesn't get what this company is about.
It was weird. The other thing too is it's the team behavior towards York. I feel like that was huge. Just because people, I mean, they were afraid of him, and I feel like you can't really be a team player when you're like afraid of your leader. You can't have input, and it's just awkward.
So at my job, we have a very, very, I want to just be nice because this is recording, but I have a couple executives at my company that have no decorum and no tact. And yesterday, I got to be witness through a glass window of like a World War III between our CEO and CFO, dropping all sorts of language. And they're calling each other girls, and they're both guys. It's just, when you let your ego be who you are, you're not approachable.
No,
and I feel like that's Simon York's issue, is because he's so good at it, but it doesn't seem like he's had any training.
Yeah.
Because in any leadership training, that would be one of the first things, is how do you work with your team?
Yeah.
Now, in a conference.
And yeah, it's humiliating.
Yeah. And they'll never say anything again.
No. It says, so it also brings up roles in building culture. That's one thing I discuss about a lot in my writing, is that it's kind of, I guess it's more of an HR problem. You said you worked in HR,
yes.
But I feel like people like that are a little more advanced or like higher up in their career, I don't think I don't know how good they are at taking advice from like an HR person.
It depends on the company, the culture of the company. However, Mary is the director of consumer products. So she is, it seems like I took from it that she is John's boss and Simon's
boss, yeah.
So I feel as though the problem that we have in this circumstance is the fact that we aren't sure where she's going to go, because she mentioned that she's noticed his behavior in meetings.
Hi there.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi. I'm sorry, I have laryngitis, so.
Okay, well, we'll kind of do the talking, I guess. Just kind of, you can write in if you need to, because that way you don't have to use your voice.
So we're discussing the case study, Lucy, and we're talking about just sort of an overview, working down the agenda. I'd love to hear what you think the main issue from the case study is, whether you need to write it down or you think you can speak it. I just got over bronchitis, so I feel ya.
I guess I think the main thing for me that I got out of the case study was time and adjusting. It's hard to take a position over from someone that's been there for 27 years. So my first thought was, even though this man has, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Even though he definitely has valuable experience, he was accommodating, he's taking on a team that's had a leader for quite a long time. And I thought there would have to be some kind of a adjusting phase. And there's definitely a concern in his behavior. But I just thought if time would and redirection might work with his situation.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. In my case study write-up, I spoke about training a lot because training is something that companies sometimes fail with because it costs money and it takes time out of production. So I absolutely agree with you on that.
Cool. So we're on the part, I guess the next part of the agenda is it says, what is Mary's role in establishing the culture? The first question is, how is she supporting the culture? And then also, how is she working against the culture? So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
So I feel like she's supporting the culture by hearing John's side.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like she's adding to the culture, so she's working against it if all she does is take John's opinion of the situation and circumstance and doesn't go down to the production floor and get some firsthand information about the people he blew up at.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's people don't realize how they sound to people, so she needs to also take that into consideration. It may not be, there are people who are so technical that they don't have a lot of human emotion when you're talking to them. They just want to know the facts. And then you have people who are what we call in my firm gooey, meaning the people who have the emotion first and they want to be affirmed in what they're doing.
Yeah.
But the people who have no emotion, and that sounds horrible, but I hope you guys understand what I mean. Those people don't understand the emotion. So they don't understand how saying to someone, you're ruining this, would affect them.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed is at the end of the case study, he knew that he was going, York knew he was going in to talk with Mary, but he was thinking like, oh, I've done so well. Like, I know she's going to bring that up, but I don't think he had any idea that people were offended.
Yeah.
Which is kind of goes back to what you were saying, is like, he's not that person he just does work and gets things done. He's kind of a bull. But people take offense to it, and it's hard to work with him.
Well, and I'm in between that type of person and an ooey gooey person because I like getting my stuff done and I don't like wasting my time.
Yeah.
But I have learned the hard way that you have to be considerate to your coworkers and understand that they don't speak your language.
Yeah.
And if they don't speak your language, you have to accommodate that by learning how to speak with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad that Simon is not thinking anything else.
I think it is too. I think it's kind of he's kind of oblivious. So we discuss Mary's role? Now it says, what is Simon's role in establishing or maintaining the culture? How is he supporting it? And then also, how is he working against the culture?
I think he showed with the previous manager that he can be accommodating and positive and complimentary and supportive. He proved that to a higher up. I think he's I think he needs to learn how to work with those that are, I don't want to say working under him, but kind of he's over,
Yeah, his team.
his team. He doesn't seem to be that accommodating or compromising as he was with the previous manager.
Well, and then I also have to wonder, are his expectations vocalized to his team? I mean,
Yeah.
I've worked for people before that had expectations that were ridiculous, but they never communicated what they wanted. And as soon as we figured out that we weren't doing what they wanted, they finally told us, and then it was fine.
Uh-huh. I've had that too, actually.
Oh.
This goes on to the next question, but part of what I saw is part of the problem was the fact that his team members didn't share with them how they were felt. They just kind of pouted out, and they didn't. I don't know. I feel like it kind of takes both. Part of communication is saying like, "Hey, like, that's not an effective way to deal with me, at least." Like, I think there's a tactful way to do it.
I think that's difficult in this situation because of how Simon presented himself to his team. Like, I know for me, if I was that guy that he like railroaded in that meeting, I would have a hard time talking to him because I wouldn't want to get chastised again.
Yeah.
Because
He has
that
a
guy
very
probably,
dominant personality.
yeah, that guy probably felt stupid, and that's not something I ever want to feel at work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So is in specific, it says, how are the team members supporting the culture?
I don't know.
I don't know. Because I agree with you. They should have been able to talk to him, and granted, they couldn't in this circumstance, whatever they were feeling. But if they're keeping quiet about bad behavior, they're not adding to a culture at all.
Yeah.
And we're all
it says
guilty
that
of it.
here. It says, how are they working against the culture? Hint, not speaking up in support of the culture. So I guess that kind of goes with what you were saying. They're not with it, they're against it.
Yeah.
But by being how they are, even though he's seems like a pretty alpha guy that's pretty dominant, they're technically kind of going against, which is kind of, I didn't actually think about that before.
I think it's interesting to think about that. Like, this type of thing fascinates me, human behavior in circumstances. As you sit and think about what the employees could have done differently, I always try to put myself in that situation. If I was in that situation, what would I need to be doing differently? And if they didn't feel comfortable with him, the culture should be created where they could go talk to Mary, or they could go talk to the next person up. And so by not speaking up, I agree with that assessment. By not speaking up, they are taking away absolutely from the culture of the firm.
I 100% agree. I think that's like, these questions are kind of organized, so it kind of helps you dive deeper. I wasn't thinking about a lot of this when I was reading the case.
I think that's
It
also
says-
interesting, though, because we're at different, like, everyone's at different points on this call.
Yeah,
Like, because
ethics cool.
because I'm living it right now at my job, like, that's the type of thing on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah. All right. It says, what would you recommend starting, stopping, or continuing in each role?
Starting.
So I guess we'll start with Mary. Maybe, I think like what you said, like, I want to allow like people to come up to me in public, and like if they have a complaint about another employee, but that should be a private thing. So it'd probably be a recommendation for her.
Absolutely. Sorry, Lucy.
Oh, that's
I feel like in order to fix the situation, Mary needs to work with Simon.
I agree.
So I worry about it continuing, and I worry about it getting more belligerent, because that would definitely cause a hostile working environment, and then Simon might not get a chance to fix the problem.
Yeah.
I just would hate for him to lose his job because he didn't receive adequate training on how to be a supervisor.
Yeah.
Mm.
I even wrote in my weekly discussions that if his behavior isn't corrected, just the fact that how much a negative person like that in an environment like a work environment can bring down everyone's morale. I think it's more important to have morale over someone that's done well, because I feel like you can be replaced, but a negative environment does not help produce.
No.
I had a thought about the business in general, I guess, because yeah, like you had mentioned to me, that employee kind of came right up to Mary and started complaining, not in private, and then I went about the team members under Simon, how they seem to just sit and be pouty. Is there no one to go to? Does Mary need more training with each department on the protocol of, the proper etiquette of filing a complaint, or, what's the boundary for each department, that allows Simon to go to a whole different department and, sounds like great for the production team.
Well,
So it seems, where's the boundaries in the department?
Uh-huh.
I absolutely would hope that would be in the employee handbook. That kind of thing is exactly what those are for, so that everyone understands what they have. They have rights at the company.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that could be really helpful is after the initial conversation with him, would be for them to do some role play to practice how he would discuss it with his team, because it seems like he's absolutely clueless. And so if he's really truly that clueless about what's going on with his team, it's going to jar him to hear this conversation. Hey, your behavior stinks.
Yeah, he's going in thinking he's gonna be praised and probably just keep pushing forward. He's going in blind if he did anything that might offend anyone. So yeah.
Well, and the hard thing is that they have to also decide, and this is me being my blunt self, so I apologize. I hope it's not offensive, but the workers also have to decide if it matters to them and make a decision. Does this bother me? Does his behavior bother me enough that I need to quit?
Uh-huh.
Or is it something that I can deal with? Because if they're going to sit there and be bitter every time he gets huffy or every time he comes off a little too rough, that's not fair to the company, because
they're too sensitive.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's a perfect way of saying it. They need to get over it. And
Yeah,
that's
I think
horrible to say.
I think there's a middle ground. I feel like part of working in any environment is you just kind of accept how people are different than you, and kind of have it just move on. And if someone's being ridiculous, then obviously that's a problem. But there's lots of personalities that you have to kind of get used to, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, it gets worse. The older I get,
I'm sure.
the people that I encounter, I thought I could never be shocked again, and then I get shocked again.
Okay.
Okay.
Now it says feedback discussion. The first point is, how should Mary approach the discussion? For me, I put in my case study discussion that she should kind of. I put that he seems like the kind of guy that wouldn't be offended, but then again, it wasn't a lot of information about him. But I feel like he's kind of like one of those guys that you could probably be a little bit more blunt with. But I would definitely bring up positive things that he has done for the company, along with some of the things that he needs to correct.
That's a great way to approach it. I feel like in order for Mary to approach it, I think she needs to not, because it seems like, I don't know, I took it that she was a little tentative about speaking with him.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I think that is very common when the conversation is going to be primarily, hey, I need you to work on these things. However, I agree with you that give him a chance. I mean, if you give him a chance to react well to the conversation, I agree with you. I know this type of personality, and I feel like he doesn't feel like he's done anything wrong because it's just how he is. And I'm not saying that's acceptable, but that's what it is. And so if she tries to beat around the bush, I think she needs to take it head on and just say, this was unacceptable. This is what should be done in the future. And try going from there.
Yeah, I agree. Didn't get a lot about him, but I think we can take this head on and see where he goes with it, but definitely give him some space and a chance, but definitely address right away that this is not the way we run. So I agree.
I think it's also important to realize that I think she needs to ask him, what do you think you could do differently in the future if something like this happens? What would you like to see? And I would probably, we clearly don't gamble, but I would put money on it that he would probably say something along the lines of, well, I would hope that my people can come to me and say, that really bothered me when you called me out in the meeting, and I understand I made a mistake, but I would have preferred you discuss it with me outside of a group setting.
All right, I agree on that.
Sorry, I just heard the TV downstairs at my house, and it sounded like the gingerbread man from Shrek. And I know that is not what they would be watching, so I got very confused for a moment.
So we've already covered a few of these points just by an open conversation. We talked about effective methods she can use, principles of effective feedback. So we've all kind of mentioned that, but giving effective feedback with someone and so everyone's on the same page, I feel like helps a lot.
That's what I would love to see with Simon, discussing it with his people. These are what my expectations are.
Uh-huh.
So that they understand and they can come, and it's just good business practice.
Okay. So basically we're moving on to the conclusion. This has to be under an hour or it has to be close to an hour?
I think close to an hour, so we have a little bit of time left.
Okay. So it talks about There's a few things we could go over, I guess. Let's see. So it says, how can Mary best reinforce the culture? I think that goes back to just allowing an environment that is positive. So however she needs to do that. So whether that be correcting him, and like we said, like if he's that intolerable, I mean, it's probably better to get rid of him than tarnish everyone else's attitude. So.
Well, I think it's important in a company, if it's being successful. I was told once by a supervisor that if he's doing his job right as a leader, he's preparing for his replacement.
Uh-huh.
He's helping everyone in his team grow, and he's helping everyone succeed. And that would mean he's preparing for his replacement. And so I think in this circumstance, I think Mary would be a very good intermediary for Simon and his team, because she's in a role of leadership. And if she shows by example, I think that will help Simon too.
No, I think you're right. If the leadership does, I feel like that their entire, I've been in environments where there's actually good leaders, and it's very contagious. Everyone kind of falls into that positive culture that they want.
And don't we all wish that it was every job we had?
Mhm.
Yeah. I think Mary's biggest responsibility right now is advising and following up with Simon to make sure he's on the right track and understanding. And if not, then he would have to go. But I definitely think he needs time to adjust to the environment.
Mm-hmm. I liked what you said earlier, Lucy, where you said someone had been there, ways had been established for the 27 years. One of the things that struck me when I was reading this is, if it's really not the culture because of what that manager had made the comment of, this is not how we do it here, then Mary has a tough job, because she might have to write him up. That might have been something that went against an employment agreement that he probably signed. And I love what you just said, because a lot of times discipline takes place, or conversations of improvement take place, but follow-up does not happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's nothing to gauge it against.
Mhm.
How does he know he's getting better? You should never be in a situation at a job where you don't know where you stand with your boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a good rule of thumb.
And then if he were to get fired, it would be like a surprise to him, instead of saying like, hey, like your behavior is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of being just good communication in general will fix it.
It's too easy to let things slide, in my opinion, in the corporate world these days. Oh, well, I'll deal with it if it gets worse. Well, what happens when it gets worse?
Yeah.
You'll lose more people than just the bad egg.
Yeah. All right. I'm kind of just looking through this agenda. We pretty much covered a lot of it. How many, were there any other people that were supposed to be here that didn't make it?
I think one person, I think his name is Diego. That's what I was trying to look up on my phone.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. I saw it on the email.
And he had planned to be here, so I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him. As far as this goes, it would be this is recorded, and then would it be submitted to the teacher? Would you do that?
So yeah, I would. On the discussion board for the group case study, I am to post the link, and then if we want to put any other comments in there, we can.
Okay. So technically, if he could probably watch this, and
Yeah.
I don't know how many points he'll get, but it's worth a try for him, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I figured this first week would be a little rough.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we figured it out, and because I feel like a lot of times these online classes it just gets to be a lot of information dumped on you,
It's true.
Yes.
especially the first 2 weeks.
Well, now, Jimmy, do you go by Jimmy or Jim?
I go by Jimmy.
Okay, Jimmy. You were sort of group leader. We sort of both took it, but do we want to decide who wants to be group leader next week? Now, and that way that person can plan to get into the Google Hangout first and get the link and everything.
Okay, I'll let you do it this week because you've already started the recording and you can
Okay.
submit it. And then I guess he makes it pretty clear on the instructions of how to do it, but I wouldn't have to reread those, but I'll do it next week for sure.
Okay. And then the instructions, I'm just reading. I need to find the instructions on everything he posted, because my sister sent me a link with a document that is entirely different than anything I saw. So I need to go back and explore it more to make sure that everything is taken care of for the leader role.
Mhm.
I'll have to find that after we stop broadcasting. How many classes are you guys taking?
Okay.
I'm taking 4.
You're taking 4 classes?
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's good.
Yes, it's very hard.
Jimmy, are you on campus and online?
I'm on campus, so I didn't have to take IBC. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
We're just going to.
But
going to,
They made me take this class because I've done several internships already and
Oh,
a few
okay.
startups. So they kind of felt I'm older than the average kid here. I'm 27. I feel like a lot of kids graduate when they're like 25, 24.
You're still a baby, Jimmy.
So yeah, I'm this is kind of my last semester, but I'm taking 14 credits.
Okay.
So
My first semester at Rick's, I was stupid and took 18 credits.
holy cow, that's a lot.
That semester killed me. But I take a very likable 6 because I work full time.
Uh-huh.
More than full time if you look at my timesheet, but I work. So I'm like, how can I do school and not kill myself?
So, honestly, 6 I feel like is a good amount. It's very doable.
Well, and because I pay for it out of pocket, I take a religion class every semester, so I have that break,
Uh-huh.
because I want to do really well. I have a degree already. I got it in hospitality and tourism, but I want a business degree.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll work while I'm handling that. All right. It's been 45 minutes. On this case study, because it was 2 pages, I just don't have that much more to say.
No, and we've covered a lot. We've even recovered a lot of stuff.
No, it's true.
It does say we're allotted an hour. It doesn't say you have to.
Okay, I couldn't find the verbiage correctly.
It says, use your time well. You only have 1 hour.
Oh, okay, so we can take up to an hour. I don't
Yeah.
know. I've lived Mary Griffin's life. I've lived Simon York's life, and I have absolutely been the sensitive John Shelburne character as well. So this was very relatable for me.
I feel like we learned.
I do. And we met each other, so we know who to expect. We just hope Diego, visits us next week.
Mhm.
So
But
we're gonna
Lucy,
stay-
feel better. I'm so sorry. You're sick.
Thank you. 1 month with my voice like this.
Yeah. So, and 6 o'clock Mountain Standard works for everybody on Thursdays, right?
Typically,
Okay.
Yes.
yeah. And if it doesn't, I'll let you guys know. I mean, I don't really have anything on Thursday.
Yeah,
so
Thursday's the most flexible day as well. I just get home from work at 4:30, so as long
Okay.
as, and I switch time zones for the last 3 weeks of the semester, and I'll be an hour behind you guys, depending on where you
Wow.
are. Lucy, where are you at?
I'm in Provo, Utah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
in Arizona time. We don't change. So half the year I'm Mountain time and half the year I'm Pacific time.
Where are you in Arizona?
I'm right by the Cardinals Stadium in Peoria, which is a suburb of Phoenix.
I spent 25 years in Chandler.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I work over on Elliott in the 10, and I live on Northern in the 101. So I have a commute every morning. I leave my house at 5.
Wow.
Wow.
Don't be an adult, Jimmy. I almost called you Johnny. Don't be an adult. Just stay in school. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
that's the plan.
That's the plan. Well, I'll see you guys next week, and I'll upload this link to the discussion board, and I will find the instructions for the leader to make sure that we get full credit.
Okay.
So
Thank
Cool.
you so much.
it was nice to meet you guys, and we'll see each other next week.
All right, take care.
Cool.
Okay.
See you guys. Nice
Bye-bye.
meeting you.